Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Rob Laurie. You are watching Empower716. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have we're going to have a great discussion tonight. Talking about the question for tonight is, do entrepreneurs and small businesses really need business insurance? And so I am so thankful and honored to have a special guest here tonight. Her name goes by Toni DuBois-Croom, and she's been doing this for over 20 years. And I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks, Toni.
Thank you.
So I want to just tell our audience, our LinkedIn audience, our Facebook audience, as well as our YouTube audience and those who are watching the replay, to make sure that you engage with us. I want to make sure that we get some of the questions that you may have regarding business insurance, because this is all about empowering each other with information that's going to help all of us grow in our business and our lives. So, Toni, like I said, thanks for joining us. And why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, first I have to apologize. I'm a little tired. I had to try to help the Bills win last night. It was a big
that
job.
was a good
Oh, my
game.
goodness. Stressful, but exciting.
Yeah, the wait was a little bit when the rain, I was like, okay, this is taking a while. And I was afraid that we were going to lose the momentum.
Yes, and switch over, because sometimes we've lost games like that before, but thank God we hung in there.
Hung in there. Yeah, that was definitely a good game. It was just like, wow. And then you were thinking, like, why couldn't we do this last season? Because we could have, got into the playoffs.
Yeah,
but
well, I guess it wasn't that time or something.
God has a reason for everything. Right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. Glad to always talk about insurance.
Yes.
As you said, I am married recently, actually, for the next time. And I have 2 adult children. And, when I first started insurance, close about 27 years ago, I thought I'd have a little job.
Wow.
But it's a big job. It really is. It's not, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's like kind of whenever, it's during the week. And then, of course, there's times on the weekend where people have emergencies. I need insurance yesterday. Can you help me?
Wow.
And then we try to, assist people like that too. But, there's so many types. We do everything but health insurance.
Okay.
So for businesses, personal, life, health, business, all of that stuff we actually do. And we work with people because we know it's a lot. And we're here for you. We care about what happens because we're you. You know what I mean? We're going to care more about what you have going on than maybe somebody who doesn't necessarily look like you.
Now, tell me, just walk me through how you got involved in insurance. Like, what was was it something you desired for years and say, okay, I want to get into the insurance industry?
Okay. Well, first when I started, it was life and health primarily that I was doing. And actually, I think one of the first jobs I had was Prudential.
Okay.
And so we were doing kind of everything then. And then we did some property, but mostly life and health and disability, trying to protect if anything happens to someone, There's money to bury them. If they get sick or hurt and cannot work, there's money to make sure they can still, take care of their families. That was the primary focus. And I did that up until 7 years ago, mostly. And then this last 7 years, I had the opportunity and the blessing to be a farmer's agency.
Wow.
And I was the first African-American female in the state of New York to have one.
Now explain what that is.
That's a captive agency. It's like a State Farm or Allstate.
Okay.
You sell for that particular company. They were based out of California. And they'd been around since like 1918. But they had just moved to the East Coast about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And so I was able to get an agency then.
Okay.
And,
So walk me through what is an agency? Like what
Okay.
is that?
An agency is when you work for a particular primarily just what they offer.
Okay.
So you don't have options with other companies, just that company's products. And the one thing that was kind of different from farmers is that if they did not do the coverage that you needed, you had an opportunity to reach out to other companies. Okay. But farmers had to be able to turn it down first. Wow. And it was really good the first several years, say 3 or 4 years, it was really good as far as, pricing and, opportunities to help people with coverages. And then they started changing. And then it started to be that they were, if you called in for tolls too many times, they'd cancel your policies.
Wow.
Yeah. And they also count as claims now. All companies are doing that part. If you call in because you have that on your policy too many times, they count as claims against you, just like an accident. So that was a thing that came out. But they started, having challenges with their prices. And at that point, we kind of changed what we were doing. We started accessing other companies, like your Progressive, your Travelers, companies like that. And so this past year, we became an independent agency. So that's brokering. So that means you really work for the customer. You can shop around for different companies, for different coverages, for anything that, someone should need. And you're not restricted to one particular company.
Wow.
Therefore, you're able to get better pricing, better coverages, that kind of thing.
Now, was that part of your goal, like when you were, in the business, and was that a desire, like you said, I want to kind of do my own independent agency? Was that kind of something you desired or something you fell into?
Kind of fell into. It really was, I didn't expect to really leave farmers per se, but, sometimes God leads you in different directions.
Absolutely.
And, it just kind of happened. They wanted to end our contract, which is okay, but we were in such a good position that we were able to be okay with that change. And I think sometimes you have to pivot and be okay with the change and step out on faith and understand that it may be a little scary, but you're going to be okay. And you got to make it, you can't just say, well, I hope that happens. I hope I'm going to be okay. You got to work towards that happening.
Now, when you made that first step, what were you thinking? Like, what was like your emotions and your, like, was there a huge amount of fear that you had, like the uncertainty?
Not exactly. I was a little concerned, but I kind of felt like we were going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because people, we've had lots and lots of customers, hundreds and hundreds over the years, and they know we care about them. And I had to be in a position where I could hold on to them because they were leaving. And so I really wanted to make sure that if something happened, I'd be still in a position to take care of them. I am the oldest of 7. I forgot to say that. So I have this protector thing going on. We're always trying to help people and always trying to make a difference. And that's what we do. And we also kind of differentiate ourselves from other places because on my building, my sign says, always working for you. And because we always are. That is our motto. That is what we do. That's who we are. And so with that being said, we had to, just make sure we could stay in that position to be able to do that.
Yeah. Now, before we get into like the specifics of the coverages you provide, I want to talk about how important it is for you, not only like personally, but in your business, to be accessible to the community. Because I see you, doing different vendors, building your rapport with different people. How important is it in the insurance industry to do that?
Well, it's huge, and you can't just wait for people to come to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't know who to go to. So we're out there, like you say, I do the vending. I put cards on cars.
Absolutely.
Can I give you a card? Kind of all of that, because I understand that, sometimes people are scared and they don't know what to think, what to do. And I want them to know that we're here for you. And so you have to be out there and just kind of, like I said, pound that pavement and think outside the box. Sometimes you got to try to think about things differently and how to reach different people, and you never know where it's going to lead you.
Now, do you think there is, because obviously insurance companies are all over the place, right?
Right.
You can go online in 5 minutes, put your information in there, and then they'll give
can.
you an insurance quote. Is it, like far as like what you see out there, is it a benefit of having that face-to-face contact with someone like you?
I think it's huge because, I mean, like any business you call these days, so many times you can't even hardly get a person.
Yeah,
Or if you do get a person, it's hard to understand what they're saying.
absolutely.
It just is, and that's the reality of it. We do have people that like to just stop in. That they just do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And they know too that if something happens, we're there for them. And I think even though insurance has kind of changed, in some ways it's still the same.
Yeah.
That interaction that you can have with a person face to face is just huge. And that means you're on the same page, you're understanding each other, as opposed to you're hoping you're understanding what you think and what you need, like that.
Yeah. And I found it like, as I was preparing for this interview, of all the questions I had in my head, I was reading the information and I started to think about like how much contact I have with my insurance agency. And you only call when something happens, right?
And as soon as something
as soon as something happens. And then you got to look up this number and everything else. But then it's just like, I think having that personal contact helps because there's questions that you may have along the way or you don't even think about it. I get my coverage plan every year, renewal, and it's this thick packet and you're kind of like, okay, I got it, and it's put away.
Absolutely.
And so the transition that I want to make is I have some questions for you about particularly business insurance, and then we'll kind of dive into some questions later from the audience from either Facebook, LinkedIn. And I want to talk about the business insurance and start with general liability.
Okay.
Actually, before I do that, most people who are entrepreneurs may believe that they don't need any type of insurance. I'm starting off with my either product or service, and maybe I've got my LLC, maybe I have an S corp. Then I'm going out into the field, and I'm having contact with different customers, or I'm serving a product. So I want to start with general liability and why maybe it's important for someone who are even just getting into starting their business. Why at least starting with the definition or what coverage provides general liability.
Okay. Well, you kind of want to ask yourself, and that's a very good question, what kind of exposure do you have? What kind of risk is involved? Okay. If you're out, with your product or whatever you're doing, and you're reaching out to people, is it something that, if something happens, they could be trying to sue you?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there risk involved with what you're doing? And sometimes people may not want to sue you, but they may have no choice. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the question is, if you are in that situation, do you want to be using your money to protect yourself, your paycheck, your assets, or do you want to use an insurance company's money to do that? I think that's a huge question to ask. And insurance is not like, a lot of times, just like your auto and home, you don't want to have it, but you have to have it.
Right.
It doesn't have to cost a fortune.
Okay.
It's a business expense also. And depending on what you do, it may not even be that expensive. And it's something that you can pay on. Somebody who does construction is going to be, a different price than somebody who does like a personal service to somebody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or a small arts and craft type of thing is going to be different price-wise than construction or a painter or whatever.
Now, the misconception, or I would say the thing that I hear out there regarding insurance is that the insurance industry is just obviously in the business to make money. And so here I am trying to make money as an entrepreneur, business owner, and I can't afford to pay for what ifs.
Okay.
And so I'm investing every month into an insurance that they're making money. And so now I have to get this general liability that I may never need. So kind of like, what do you say to that?
Well, you hope you don't need it.
Yeah.
But it's like anything, you want it to be there, as opposed to not having it and something happen. You know what I mean? Say you have this product and you have somebody buys it from you and they get injured from this product.
Yeah.
Well, maybe their damage is $500,000.
Hmm.
Now, where are you going to come up with $500,000? Do you have enough
Wow.
assets to cover that?
Yeah. So
Or
you're
do you
gonna go
want
for,
your
yeah.
assets to cover that? I mean, that's kind of the question you have to ask. And it is a business expense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's something that you get to write off because your income is totally different from when you work for someone as opposed to working for yourself.
Right.
So you get, things you get to write off, like your mileage,
Mm.
your cost of insurance, your equipment that you may have. These are different things, business related things that you have that kind of reduce your taxable income.
Nice.
So in one way they're costing you money, but in the other way they're saving you money and protecting you.
Good. So the other one I have on my list is professional liability. Now, I do life coaching,
Okay.
and I don't call what I do advice, but I guess it still would be covered under advice.
Mm-hmm.
So, what recommendation, or kind of explain what professional liability is and what it covers?
Okay. Professional liability is like E&O.
Okay.
Okay. And that insurance is if you give advice or something, or someone gets harmed by something you do or something that you say. And you'll find that with maybe people that do daycare, people that do counseling,
Right.
that kind of thing. Even insurance agents, we have that kind of insurance because they may misunderstand what you're saying and say, oh, I think he said this.
Yeah.
And they go do it, and it could cause them problems, and they could be trying to sue you.
Now, does this apply for someone who's giving, like, I guess, financial advice? Let's say
Any
a
kind of
financial
advice.
coach. Okay.
Any kind of advice. If they're working with children, for example, you want that professional liability. Working with other people.
Yeah.
I do quite a bit of insurance for non-for-profits, and they're dealing with different groups of people. You want that professional liability there, like child molestation. You know what I mean? If somebody makes a claim for that, that's a lot of money.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then, too, sometimes if somebody puts a claim in, an insurance company will ask, has there been any claims for these? Okay, are you doing background checks for people that you're working with? There's other, variables involved. And it does not have to cost a lot of money, but it gives you protection should some, kind of claim arise.
Wow. Great information. So let's talk about the product liability.
Okay.
So I have a product. Let's say I have, shirts, or maybe I have, I'm thinking other type of products that I'm providing to my customers.
Okay.
What does product liability cover?
Pretty much, if your product injures someone, say your shirts have zippers, and somebody's putting on their shirt and they cut themselves with your zipper, which could happen, you never know. That could be a product liability.
Wow.
But they have these policies have a lot of different coverages in them, so it's not just one thing. So it's a combination.
So is that something that when you sit down with a customer and you kind of walk them through what their needs are as far as in their business, or even what type of business they provide, and then kind of walk maybe some recommendations of what they would need?
Yes, absolutely. We ask questions, and then while we're even trying to find coverages, underwriters sometimes have questions. So there may be additional things that they want to know that would also, need to be answered before coverage is in place. Because once a policy is in place, any type of policy, should something happen, it's got to pay whatever that, amount of that coverage is.
Wow. So the other one I had on my list was cyber liability. Can you kind of explain what that entails?
Sure. Well, that's a more recent term, cyber. And you've seen on the news where major companies have had customers' information hijacked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's millions of dollars that they're holding everything hostage for. And cyber liability protects you that if you have your customers' information, and it's a lot of information, like social security number, date of birth, all those things, and that protection is there. So if they try to get that information, you have coverage to because it costs money.
Right.
When someone's identity is taken, it costs like thousands of dollars, it could be, to get that, repaired. And so that cyber liability can help cover that.
Now, one question I have for you before we started was, is it more of confidential information? Let's say as a entrepreneur, business owner, I'm collecting data on my customers, and it could include obviously their email, maybe their date of birth, their anniversary, things of that nature. How extensive is this? Like, what I need to get cyber liability if I'm only collecting basic information?
You shouldn't,
Okay.
but it really, is a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Sometimes you really don't want to just make blanket statements.
Right.
But primarily not. Like, what I do is, like, I have the information, so I
Right.
definitely have to have that in companies that do, types of things like that. But for someone who gets minimal information, it shouldn't be necessary. It's kind of not as bad as, like, regular general liability, professional liability. Those would be higher on the list than the cyber would.
Now, just give me one example. So one example I have would be I'm a credit counselor, right?
Okay.
And I obviously have to collect people's credit report
Now,
information.
that's different.
Now, that's a lot of confidential information I
Yes,
have
it
to
is.
collect.
Yes, it is.
So that person who's providing credit counseling really needs to have cyber
They should.
liability,
They should.
which is important. Okay.
Especially these days. It didn't used to be a problem years ago, but now in recent years, it's starting to be.
Yeah. And I always question that even as a consumer, that when
Yeah.
I'm giving a business my personal information, I guess, how do I find that out? So you, as a customer, like, is that something people inquire about other, like, let's say I'm giving you my information, like,
Okay.
are you covered to take my information because I want to make sure it's secure?
I'm covered, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and thank God. But yeah, and you can ask that question, and say if it's a business and they're concerned about it, you can even ask underwriting, what do they think or what do they recommend? Do they think this is something that this particular business should have? Because if
Wow.
you're only collecting minimal information, not so much. But now if you're a credit person, you got to have their social security number,
Yeah.
date of birth. You got primary information there. And so that would be definitely, a need, I would say.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be astronomical in price either, just so you know. Last one I had quoted was like maybe $400 or $500 for the year.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't humongously
not expensive,
priced. Yeah, and you
Okay.
pay on it. Like a
Do a
lot
little
of
monthly,
insurance is
right?
layaway.
Yeah. So the other one that I found it interesting was, and I don't know where it falls under, but someone who is providing food. Now I have a lot of family members and friends that start their food business out of their home,
Okay,
and so they got the dinners,
a lot of folks.
giving them out to people.
Yes.
Now I'm a customer. I get sick off of the food that you provided me, and now I'm coming after you.
Yeah.
How do I get coverage under that as far as the food product?
'Cause they're a vendor
Yeah.
doing that. There's a policy that you could have. It could be you could have the general liability and professional liability.
Okay.
Catering. It could follow on the catering depending on, what stipulations, different companies have different requirements
Okay.
and different categories.
Okay.
But I mean, like you say, there's a lot of people doing that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of exposure,
So kind of explain like the risk factors of doing that, because I think sometimes we talked about before, you just like, what if, but
Yeah.
it is a huge risk that if you are providing a service and especially again, someone gets sick and now you're going to be held accountable. I guess if I don't have any coverage, am I personally liable for that?
You could be, but also depends on the situation. Now, if it's at your house, whether renting or owning, if there's some kind of insurance, homeowners insurance or renter's insurance, there is general liability attached, or I should say professional liability attached to that premise.
Okay.
Okay. So that could pay up to $100,000 generally. People have 100 up to 300,000. So that's a possibility also. Some policies do let you have a small business, home-based business operating there. So you maybe want to find out that too. If you don't have an option for that, then you definitely kind of want your own, coverage. Because even as a person is coming up to your door, they could trip and fall and injure
Yeah.
themselves or slip. This is Buffalo. They
Yeah.
could slip on ice or
Slip and
snow.
fall.
You know what I mean? Easily. There's risk involved there. So there's a couple of different ways to kind of cover it, your own personal one and the one from your, premises.
Wow. So the other one I had on my list was the hired non-owned auto.
Okay.
And I knew about obviously the commercial coverage for your, commercial auto for a business, but I didn't think about if I had someone working for me, they're doing my business in their own personal vehicle.
Right.
Kind of explain what that is.
Yeah, that means that if they're doing it they're working for you, but they're using
Okay.
your vehicle. So you have liability coverage that extends to cover that usage.
Okay.
So if they have an accident and they hit somebody and causes, damage or whatever, it's covered.
Now tell me how does that progress? Or I guess maybe let's say I'm driving in my vehicle and I'm doing something for another business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would my own personal insurance kick in first before it gets to me trying to go after the business?
Well, generally what happens is it's a commercial auto policy first.
Okay.
Now, commercial auto is automobile coverage or vehicle coverage that's business for your business.
Okay.
And so that has the non-owned auto on there. Your personal lines really does not.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you need to get it separately to get that coverage.
Now, if I'm just let's say I am the employee, but I don't know anything about this situation, nothing about the insurance. And let's
Okay.
say the business owner doesn't want to give that and say, I don't want to touch that because now it's going to hit my insurance. And so would I as a person have to tap into my own my insurance if I don't know anything about the business piece?
See, now that would be a challenge because insurance companies are very inquisitive. And they'll be asking, so what exactly were you doing when this happened? Were you working or were you not? They're going to ask you a
Gotcha.
lot of questions. They're going to be investigating, okay,
Right.
like a serious crime took place. They will. And they're going to find out that you were working for someone. And it's going to be a challenge.
Wow.
They may try not to pay. which
So
could be
I'm assuming, so as they go through this investigation, ask those questions that if they, because I'm assuming they don't want to pay out from the personal insurance.
Yeah, because see, the thing is, now they're all about, they don't mind paying,
Right.
but they want to collect that premium. So if they're not getting paid and you want us to pay, that's a problem. So
Right.
that's where that comes in at.
Wow.
So that's why they're so like inquisitive about exactly what happened and all that.
Wow. So what do you find like the resistance that you find in the business sector first of talking about all these different coverages, insurance? What's kind of like the resistance you see out there of getting business insurance?
Sometimes it's not really even just the business insurance. I think we have a tendency to maybe question a minority business. Like I've had people come into, I had a person, actually older man, come into our office recently. I think I gave him a card at like the one of those events or something like that. And he's like, "Are you a real business?" Well, I got a sign on the building. I got plaques on the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We do, it's offices, there's people working in there and all that. And I just say that to say, sometimes we have a tendency not to, I don't know, give businesses credit for doing things. And you always try to support other minority businesses.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a challenge, just period. And, we just want them to understand we're here for you.
Yeah.
Other people may not be here for you, but we definitely are. And we want to see you do well. I
Wow.
love to see a minority business, succeed. It's like, it's a beautiful thing because it's rough
Absolutely.
out there.
Yeah, it is.
It is rough out there.
Do you, I guess, as far as like education, because obviously like insurance is just, it's a lot.
It is.
How do you as a business kind of educate the community about the different types of insurances? Do you provide workshops or different things of that nature?
Okay. Well, I've been licensed a lot of years, and you have to, take courses, get licensed, and recertify every 2 years.
Okay.
We do seminars. I've done it at our church, True
Yep,
Bethel. Done
True
them there
Bethel.
before. It's been a while. We do the defensive driving course at the African American Cultural Center. We do that, and we, teach about driving, but we also teach about insurance in general.
Yeah.
Because knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
And we want, we have a tendency when those policies come into our house, we throw it in the drawer.
I told you that's exactly. So I think before I let you go on, is this was like a aha moment, because as I was sitting there preparing myself, I was like, I really do a bad job of just kind of like taking the policy and just taking this big package and just put it in the file cabinet, and then it comes again. All I look at is the price.
You're in good company. Don't feel bad. It's not just you. Yeah, that's the thing. And see, we have a tendency to be very loyal with our insurance companies.
Yeah.
But insurance companies, they don't really care about loyalty, not like they used to.
Yeah.
And if you're paying a lot of money for insurance, you've got to compare every couple of years just to make sure it's got what you have coverage-wise or what you need. And that's the only way to really reduce the price, too,
Yeah.
by comparing.
It's funny that you said that, because I maybe this happened like 4 years ago. I was the insurance company that I was with, it was auto insurance,
Okay.
and had the same insurance for years. And something happened in the mail didn't get the
Okay.
bill,
Okay.
auto pay, and I get this license or this mail from DMV saying my insurance is
They don't
lapsed.
play.
And all of the fees attached, and you got a certain amount of days to do it, and it
Yes.
was like, and then it was hard for me to get renewed because of the time lapse.
So it had to be over 31 days.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it was like all those months of paying on time,
Yeah, it meant nothing.
and then that one time, I
That's
was
right.
like, wow.
Yeah, it's terrible. And see, people don't know that because
Yeah.
after, say you've been driving 20 years, just as a number, and then your policy cancels, you didn't get the mail or whatever, 31 days, you have to go for insurance again like you were never driving.
Yeah,
If you have not had consistent insurance for the last 6 months, it's like it does not count. Then it's like that $8 a day plus, you know what I mean? And, depending on the situation. And if you've had that twice in a 3-year period, the second time they sit you down. They don't even let you pay. They're
Yeah.
like, you turn in your stuff and we'll see you in a month or two.
wow,
I had a girl, she couldn't drive for a whole year. A
wow.
whole year. Can you imagine? Because that kind of thing happened. No insurance. If you got to have plates, you got to have insurance. They go together.
Yeah, it was just a learning
Shocking.
experience. I'm like, wow, just this one time, and I'm like, I
Yes.
didn't realize I had to get a whole new quote and everything.
Yeah,
It
it's
just
serious business.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one I talk about is I think I have on here specialized equipment coverage. Is that something different? Do you know anything about
Specialized
that?
equipment.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it can be like, for example, my brother was actually digging in the parking lot of a building he owns. And so it's a big digging thing he had to order. And sometimes you have to get insurance on that. And sometimes the agency that provides that equipment does not offer the insurance. Sometimes they do.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's special equipment coverage. Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people during COVID started working in their homes, and then kind of explain to me like insurance. So we kind of talked about me having a studio in my home.
Yeah.
And so I'm used to working online with people, so I don't really have contact with, the world, I guess. But face to face, rather.
Right.
But then would you recommend people who work from home getting insurances, or how extensive is the insurance for people who have employees working from home? Like, what's the difference, type of insurance that you need to provide?
Well, there's definitely a difference if you have employees as
Okay.
opposed to just being a home-based business with you only.
Okay.
Big difference there because, if you have employees, that means you have to have workers' comp and New York State coverage.
Right.
Required.
Right.
Okay? But if it's just you working your business, you may want general liability. It depends. What you're doing, how much inventory you have.
Right.
I was working with a group last week, and she was saying she had so much stuff in her basement, she's getting a trailer to put her stuff in.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because she has a lot of inventory.
Yeah.
So it really kind of depends on what your situation is. What do you have in there? What exactly you're doing? And how much are you making from this?
Yeah.
If you're only making a few dollars, then you don't need it. But if you're raking it in,
Yeah.
you definitely
So,
kinda
question
wanna
out
have
as you were talking is, for someone who has like homeowner insurance only covers your actually home, right?
Well, it covers your house.
Okay.
It covers your property in the house.
Okay.
It covers loss of use, like if there's a covered reason why you cannot stay in the house, put you in a hotel.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then it covers general liability
Okay.
and replacement cost on your contents.
Okay.
So if it costs more money to replace those items than you paid for originally, it's going to pay that generally.
Okay. So if I'm running a business out of my home, will my home ownership insurance cover some of those products that I have in the home?
Some.
Some. Okay.
It depends on, like, if you have, like, say your personal property is $150,000 as an example.
Yeah.
But maybe $50,000 of it is business insurance. Well, sometimes you may have to get a rider to add that additional coverage to cover that business property.
Wow.
Yeah. So you'd want to ask your agent, I'm doing a little bit of stuff in my house. Is that a problem?
Right.
Do I need additional coverage? And if not, what about my business property?
Okay.
And there's different limits a lot of companies will have, as far as covering the business property. And, things have changed. In the last 2 years, it's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
So many, tall buildings are empty. A lot of people are working from home now. And with that being said, insurance companies have to adjust what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Now, have you ever heard any situations where I, as an employee, am required to work from home, I get injured at home doing, during the work hours that I'm, required to do my work.
Okay.
Does that fall under work comp?
It should.
Okay.
If you're working,
Okay.
and you get injured while working, it should cover under the workers' comp.
Okay.
And workers' comp claims are like lifelong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious on how different
It has
work
to
comp.
if you're working.
Okay.
But they may, I guess now they can have your computer clocking in, what you're doing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? As far as what hours you're doing to make sure you actually were working, when that thing happened.
I'm sure during investigations they'll kind of ask those
Absolutely.
questions to figure that out, right? So yeah, so we're gonna kind of transition real quickly into a quick video. Empower716, this is our second episode, and the premise of Empower716 is really to empower others, entrepreneurs, business owners, side hustlers, career shifters. And the best part of, I would say, of this that I enjoy is the young entrepreneurs. There's young people who have a desire and they have this ideal and they want to, basically drive that ideal and make it a reality. And so we have an opportunity to celebrate, promote, and showcase young people once a month in our community. And so I'm going to play a video of a clip of our Young Entrepreneur of the Month, which is Makai Gibbs.
Awesome.
And so he's going to talk about who he is and his business, and then we'll come back with some final questions for Toni.
Great.
My name is Makai Gibbs. Pleasure to be here starting off. Okay, well, first starters, I'm a senior. I go to Hutch Tech, and I am the creator of Bright Life. And what Bright Life is basically a art business, right?
Okay.
Where I make custom art and also custom clothes, and that's what I'm known for: custom do-rags, custom bonnets, and custom clothes. And I make sure I make the best comfortable and quality clothes.
No, I love that. So tell the audience about your business structure of actually going to different barbershops in the city of Buffalo.
Well, I mean, I've gone everywhere, but yeah, I've gone to different barbershops just to see, what barbershops have been the most populated and stuff like that. And I go there just to see what opportunities and different people I can meet, because I met a decent amount of celebrities at barbershops and stuff like that.
Great.
So that was a good opportunity for me back then.
Okay, so what else? What other products do you provide?
So back in the summer, I provided women's workout clothes and summer outfits, and I provided the men's outfits, which are these shorts right here. I always make sure that my clothes are as comfortable as I can possibly make them.
I love it.
Yep.
So, I loved your products and your business model. Now, I want to tell the audience that you and I met about a month ago, and
Right.
I took some notes during our conversation. One, the first note is that you were on time, you were professional, and you share with me your mindset of how you started in your entrepreneurial journey. And then you talked about expanding your business. You said, you started in working at different barbershops and setting up shop. And to me, what I took from that conversation is that you as an entrepreneur, you figured out where your customers are. And then how do I tailor to my customers to fit their needs? And you were trying to solve a problem. Barbershop, if you're selling do-rags, is the
That's
best
the
place
best
to be.
place possible, yeah.
And I love that. And so, although I will buy some of your products, I can't really do too much. I don't have any ways that I can get to your do-rags. But I was really inspired by you and your mindset of your drive and just going after it. And when we spoke to these other individuals, they wanted in on what we could do to help you expand your business through
Right.
the internet. And
Correct.
so what we did is these individuals asked to be anonymous. However, this is through the Empower716. So what we wanted to do as our Young Entrepreneur of the Month, you're our first Entrepreneur of the Month.
Wow, it's
So
crazy.
you set in history right here.
Word.
And so On behalf of Empower716, as our Young Entrepreneur of the Month, we want to present to you a check of $500 for your startup fund to help you
Thanks
go
to you and
online.
Empower 716, man. This is crazy.
It's
I really
crazy,
appreciate it.
No, man, you absolutely deserve it. I want to encourage you to keep up the great work that you're doing, man. I know
will.
that your heart
I
is
definitely
in it.
will.
So, where can people find you if they want to get your product?
Well, my most prominent way of contacting people is through my social media on Instagram, and it's called BRYTE_life, Bright Life. Yep.
Say that one more time.
BRYTE_life. Yep.
So I want to make sure that you hit Makai up for his products. Again, if you are in do-rags, bonnets, and he other sells other clothing products, make sure you check him out on Instagram. We'll put that on the screen. This is really what Empower 716 is all about. It's really empowering each other, building with each other. And so we want to thank Makai, and I do want to just add this part. I want to ask you one more thing, that once you get your business online, that you come back and share with the audience of your growth, so that we can kind of see your progress.
Definitely.
Are you willing to do that?
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
Appreciate you, and thanks for all the great things that you're doing.
Western New York. Did you know that Empower 716 Talk Show is looking to promote and recognize young entrepreneurs in Western New York? You could recommend yourself or someone else to be acknowledged on a future episode. Nominees need to be age 21 or under, has a service or product that offers value, has taken steps to become an entrepreneur, and must be willing to come on the show and talk about their service or product if selected. Email us at empower716@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back to Empower 716. I hope you had a chance to show some love for Makai. Make sure you talk in the comments. Let us know like how you like that video and the recognition of Makai Gibbs. Again, a young man, 17 years old, doing a great job. And so we're going to continue the conversation about business insurance with Toni DuBois-Croom. A lot of information. Wow.
Great.
So we did have a few questions from our LinkedIn audience, and one of them was from Beverly Robinson Smith. Shout out to Beverly. Her question was, should I use my business insurance before my homeowner insurance if something happens to my home? And I know you just kind of give some like general response to that.
Well, I'd say it depends on what the situation was.
Okay.
Was the problem a claim that happened business related, or was it home related? And that would determine which way to go.
Okay.
And the thing is too, sometimes we kind of want to self-insure with insurance. You know, back in the day, it didn't matter if you put claims in, that kind of thing. These days, you kind of want to be careful about what you're doing claim-wise.
Now, explain what
Self-insure means?
Yeah.
Like, say, for example, and I'll use the automobile, okay? You're backing out of your driveway and you knock the mailbox over, okay? You don't want to put a claim in for that, okay? You really don't, because, I mean, you know the guy around the corner that could pull that bump out and maybe fix up the paint a little bit, things like that. And you don't want to call that in because that claim's going to count against you, whether the insurance company pays you or not.
Now, I want to use this example because this happened. So I have a car. I'm taking my garbage out, and I have these little poles or pipes sticking out.
Okay.
Scratches my car. So I'm like,
All right.
So obviously, I'm not going to claim that to the insurance and say, hey, can you cover this?
Right.
So I had to obviously pay out of pocket because I didn't want that ding going against my my insurance. Is that something like similar?
That's exactly what happens. And you get an estimate on it, and you shop it around too.
Yeah.
There's people that'll give you a good price and do a good job.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be putting claims in general unless you absolutely have to. Because if, say, for example, it's $700 in damage, you know, whatever kind of damage, $700, your deductible is $500, that's only a $200 difference. It's not worth it for what it's going to cost you, you know, with increased premiums or with a rejection of your policy. They may non-renew it for, you know, nuisance kind of claims. They don't mind paying catastrophe things, but they don't want to pay nuisance things so much.
So another question as you're talking is, so I sit on a lot of boards.
Okay.
And the one thing that always comes up is general liability piece. And I want to kind of go back to this of having people, customers, clients in your facility. And more of like, you know, if you're hosting an event. So let's say I have an event space in here. I invite people to my building to host an event. So it could be a party, it could be a baby shower. I then require other people to have their own coverage.
Right.
Can you kind of explain like why that's needed?
Absolutely, because what happens when people sue, they want to sue everybody. They could be primarily mad at the person that's doing the event at your building, or they're going to sue that person, they're going to sue you, the city, whoever they can. And like a special event even, you know, you need a special event insurance for a particular day at a particular event type of thing. And yeah, you definitely want that additional insurance involved.
Now, can you walk me through like what special events? So if I'm hosting a party and I invite all my friends, let's say I'm doing a book signing.
Okay.
Everybody's here.
Okay.
I'm hosting it at a hotel.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that the hotel will require me to have some type of insurance coverage for
Right, special event.
Okay.
And that would mean they will say, well, how many people do you expect to come in? And you'll tell them, will you be serving any alcohol or anything like that? They'll ask that question. And how many days? Is it one, you know, is it a certain amount of hours or is it a certain amount of days? And those are called special events, and you can get those. And like depending on the business, if you do a lot of special events, you may want to pay for this policy annually as opposed to a one-time event.
Wow. Now, I just know we had this challenge of individuals trying to get, I guess, I don't know if it's called general liability coverage.
Okay.
That they require, you know, a business requires me to have my own liability coverage.
Okay.
And it's like $1 million or something. And when people hear that number, like, I can't afford $1 million insurance
it's not as bad
coverage.
as it sounds. It doesn't have to be. It's normally $1 million per occurrence, $2 million aggregate.
Okay.
And then it also have like $100,000 if you rent premises from somebody like that. It'll have like advertising injury if you advertise whatever and there's claims that arise out of that. So it's a lot of coverages involved, and it's not as expensive as it sounds. It could be maybe like $400 or $500 for the year. For that type of coverage.
So so that number is so scary because I remember having to tell a client that in order for you to have your event, you have to get out, you know, $1 million general liability, and they're like, I can't afford that.
Yeah, and see, depending on what kind of business it is, they may also want an umbrella.
Yeah.
Which adds additional millions of dollars of coverage on there, and that gets to be like more expensive, of course.
Explain the umbrella policy. What is that?
Umbrella is like additional liability coverage. You can get your own personal umbrella, or you can get a business umbrella. And so, for example, umbrella with your house, you may have your regular general liability, you know, professional liability, 100,000 say.
Okay.
And you may want $1 million umbrella, like say, for example, you have children, teenagers.
Yeah.
You know, they could be dangerous. And if they do things, maybe have a car accident or something like that and causes a lot of damage, that $1 million umbrella provides additional liability coverage.
Wow.
And a lot of people will have like higher limits on their automobile and their home, and also that umbrella for that extended liability. Especially because, you know, a lot of times people feel like the more you have, the more they want to get.
Yikes.
Yes.
So we got a few minutes, but I want you to talk a little bit about the defensive driving that course that you provide and why it's important. Because when I look at 10%, and I would see your, you know, just to be very honest, I would see your flyers in the church and everything else. I'm like, I don't need that. And then as I was reading it, and I'm like, the 10%, that kind of sounds nice as far as, you know, taking it off your insurance. So talk a little bit about the driving course and what's your recommendation of why that would be helpful for other people?
Absolutely. Well, it's a approved course from the DMV. Okay, which means that when you take that course and you send that certificate, they're guaranteed to reduce the cost of your insurance 10%.
Wow.
Now, it may not seem like a lot to you,
right?
But some people who pay a lot of money in insurance, it could be a lot of money. You know what I mean? And that's for 3 whole years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's huge. So it doesn't matter how you drive. You could be driving 50 years, but you take this course and you could do it online or you could do it in person, and it reduces the cost of your insurance for that length of time.
So it's a full coverage amount as far as that 10%?
Whatever it is. If you could have liability only, it's still going to reduce, you know, whatever you're paying for your auto insurance.
Now, does that have any impact on like your business, your commercial auto insurance at all?
Actually, yeah.
It does. Wow.
Any vehicle related insurance, yes. So it reduces your commercial auto too, which depending on your driving history, because like for example, if you have a commercial vehicle policy, you have one incident, it gets to be expensive.
Wow.
They charge you a lot more than your regular because they feel like you're more at risk.
Wow.
So it's so good to have. And our class is very interactive. It's socially distanced. We hand sanitize, temperature check, and all
Got
that
it all.
stuff.
How often do you
Absolutely.
provide those courses?
Generally about once a month.
Okay.
We'll probably take a break for another month or so and maybe start again in January. But it's a good class. We have a lot of fun. We talk. You'd be amazed at some of the things people talk about while driving.
Now, how long is the course for?
It's 6 hours.
6 hours.
It's 9
okay.
to 3.
Okay. So it's kind of like I remember getting a speeding ticket, and I had
Okay.
to. Now, is that course something different? Is like I think you.
It
to
helps reduce the
your-
cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only way it takes points off, because there's people with a lot of points walking around, driving around. You need like at least 10 points, and then it reduces your points.
Wow. So I mean, so we're gonna wrap up, but I've learned so much, and I appreciate what you do for the community because I believe like people out there who conducts business, but then I think is the value that you're giving to others in the heart, and like I said, I see you in the community, which you're trying to get people of color especially engaged and educated about insurance. I know, and as I told you before, I was like, I definitely have to invite you back to talk more about life insurance because that is a whole other conversation,
Huge.
especially for our community and how important life insurance is.
It really is.
And, how, I guess making sure that we educate our community on the importance of it because, again, being at a church and seeing, so many deaths and having people who are not insured and the family has to come up with how do we, make this transition for our family member.
Exactly.
And so it's a difficult conversation.
It is, but a little bit of some is better than a lot of none.
Absolutely.
It just really is. It makes it gives them an opportunity to have something to work with.
Yeah.
And it's just so critical to at least have something in place. And a lot of times, like you say, you think these people have it and they don't.
Yeah. So I hopefully that you can come back to us and
Sure.
really shed some light about life insurance, and so we kind of have that conversation. So where could people get in touch of Toni DuBois Agency LLC?
Yes, thank you. Well, we're at 1439 Main Street,
Okay.
next to the Oak Room, okay? And our hours are 9 to 5:30.
9 to 5:30. Okay, and you're always available. You said your phone be ringing.
Yes. Thank God. Yeah, the phone has been ringing the whole time. I didn't realize we were essential personnel. I'm like, okay. Well, yeah, it is. Insurance is like so critical. It really is. And, I know people don't like the idea of having insurance, but you need insurance because it takes care of you in so many different ways. It just does.
And kind of before we leave, your personalized approach, because I think we talked about this earlier about, you can get insurance online, but tell us the uniqueness that your agency provides.
Well, we would like to do reviews.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people don't even know what they have coverage-wise. Or, like, say, for example, you want people listed.
Yeah.
That if your child is not listed on your policy and they're driving your vehicle, you don't want the insurance company to say, well, we don't think we want to pay to replace your new vehicle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just things. And you get that from conversating. You can't get that from on a computer. You just can't. And we really care about, our people and want to see us do well.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking out the time. I know you are a busy woman, and I just appreciate all the things that you're doing for us. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. So make sure that you lock in next week. We have Raquel Hall, who is the Motivation Woman of Buffalo. So she's going to come in and sit down with us and talk about how she got into the business and what she continues to do in our community. Thanks for watching.